My brothers and sisters, when God blesses a person to reach 75 years of life and beyond, He has granted them something priceless: perspective. A long life teaches you what truly matters and what is better left unsaid. Because maturity doesn't just come from age, it comes from understanding when to speak and when silence carries more wisdom than words. There are things you learn by living long enough, things that don't need to be debated, explained, or justified. Not because you are hiding anything, but because keeping certain matters between you and God protects your peace, preserves your dignity, and maintains harmony in the relationships you love most. See, when you get older, you realize that not everyone needs to know the whole story of who you were. Not everybody can handle the weight of your history. In some matters, personal reflections, old wounds, private failures become sacred conversations between you and the Lord. At this age, your peace becomes your treasure and your wisdom becomes your shield. After 75, your responsibility is not to justify your past, it is to protect your present and secure your legacy. You don't owe explanations for every decision you made. You don't need to revisit every regret, every disappointment, or every mistake you've transformed into wisdom. Your value is not in the details you reveal. It's in the life you've lived and the character you've built. So today, let's talk about the 4 things a wise elder keeps private. Not out of secrecy, but out of spiritual wisdom, emotional maturity, and God-given discernment. Because some things are meant to die with you, and other things are meant to live on as lessons. When a person has lived long enough to cross the threshold of 75, they carry a lifetime of experiences that cannot be fully explained, fully understood, or fully appreciated by anyone except God Himself. Regrets become part of the quiet architecture of a person's soul, shaping them, refining them, redirecting them, but not something that needs to be unpacked at every family gathering. There are mistakes you made when you were young, decisions you took when you didn't know better, moments you wish you could rewrite. But age teaches you that not every regret needs to be spoken aloud, because some lessons were meant for your growth, not for someone else's analysis. Sharing certain regrets doesn't heal anything. It simply reopens doors that God has already closed. When you get older, you recognize that people often hear your regrets through the filter of their own maturity. Younger family members may not understand the pressures you face, the responsibilities you carried, or the options you didn't have. They don't understand the roads you walk barefoot just so they could walk comfortably today. If you share everything, they may judge moments they never lived, criticize decisions they never had to make, or assume they would have done better when they have never been tested the way you were. Wisdom teaches you that clarity doesn't always come from explanation. Sometimes it comes from silence. There are regrets tied to relationships you lost, opportunities you missed, or seasons when fear outweighed faith. But even those regrets become sacred once God has turned them into wisdom. Opening them up again can invite misunderstanding, unnecessary sympathy, or unwanted responsibility. Some family members may begin to carry guilt for things that were never their burden. Others may look at you differently, not because of who you are today, but because of who you were decades ago. Protecting them from that is not secrecy, it is love. There are also regrets that God has already forgiven, wiped clean, and buried in the depths of His grace. Sharing those regrets with people who may not have the same mercy, compassion, or spiritual maturity exposes your healed places to the opinions of those who may unintentionally reopen wounds. When God heals you, the scar becomes a testimony to His goodness, not an invitation for others to dissect your past. And when you have walked with the Lord long enough, you learn that His forgiveness is enough. You don't need to explain to people what God has already redeemed. Some regrets carry emotional weight that your heart no longer needs to revisit. You survived things that could have broken you. You overcame struggles that no one even knows about. You walked through valleys where you cried silent tears, asking God for direction, strength, and mercy. These moments were intimate conversations between you and the Lord, and no one else needs to sit in on that meeting. Sharing those memories might bring more pain than healing, more confusion than clarity. Wisdom at 75 and beyond teaches you that your role is not to relive the pains of the past, but to pass down the lessons of the past. You don't have to describe every storm to teach someone how to recognize the clouds. You don't have to confess every stumble to show someone how to stand. You don't have to open the wounds to offer the wisdom. Regrets become part of the fuel that shaped your character, your resilience, and your faith. But they do not need to be displayed like trophies or examined like artifacts. At this age, you have earned the right to protect your peace. You have earned the right to keep some memories sacred. You have earned the right to let certain regrets stay between you and the one who saw you through every season. And because he knows your whole story, understands every chapter, and has already covered every regret with his love, you can walk forward with quiet confidence, knowing that keeping some things unspoken is not a burden, it is wisdom. As the years gather behind you and you move into the season of 75 and beyond, you begin to see money differently. You understand its value, its limits, and the unnecessary tension it can create when placed in the wrong hands or shared with the wrong hearts. Financial details, especially in a family, can become a source of misunderstanding, jealousy, and division, even when your intentions are pure. When you've lived long enough, you recognize that peace in the home is far more precious than explaining who gets what, how much you have, or where every dollar is stored. Not everything needs to be discussed openly because not everyone can carry that information with maturity. You learn that some family members interpret financial disclosure as an invitation to depend on you, control you, guilt you, or pressure you into decisions that are not in your best interest. If you reveal too much, some might begin to treat you differently, not with respect, but with silent expectation or hidden entitlement. They may start calculating what they think they deserve rather than appreciating what you freely give. They may become more focused on what you leave behind than on the relationship you share today. When people's hearts shift toward money, even without meaning to, it can distort love, weaken trust, and alter the atmosphere of a family. Keeping your financial matters private protects the harmony of your relationships. You are not withholding out of fear. You are practicing wisdom. Not everyone needs to know how much you save, how much you own, what you invested, who is in your will, or what you plan to do with your estate. These are decisions that require clarity, prayer, and often professional guidance, not family debate. When too many voices get involved, confusion rises. When too many opinions crowd your mind, your peace disappears. Silence becomes a shield that allows you to make decisions calmly, maturely, and without pressure. As you grow older, you also understand the dangers of being misunderstood. If you share your financial position with some people, even those you love, they may start interpreting your generosity as obligation. They may feel offended if you do not give in the way they expect. They may question your choices, compare your gifts, or misjudge your motives. This is not because they are bad people, but because money has a way of clouding emotions. Protecting your financial privacy is also protecting them from assumptions that could damage your bond. You have also seen enough life to know that revealing financial details can expose you to manipulation. People outside your immediate circle, distant relatives, acquaintances, even strangers, may suddenly become overly friendly when they sense you have resources. They might offer advice you never asked for or persuade you to make decisions that benefit them more than you. Keeping your financial matters private is a safeguard against exploitation and a boundary that keeps your later years peaceful and secure. And then there is the matter of independence at 75 and beyond. Your goal is not to lose control of your decisions, but to preserve the dignity of making them. When family members know too much, some may feel entitled to direct your choices, where you live, how you spend, what you save, whom you help. Privacy allows you to remain the steward of your own blessings. You are not accountable to everyone. You are accountable to God for how you manage what He entrusted to you. Finally, you recognize that your generosity should flow from love, not pressure. When people do not know your financial details, whatever you give is seen as a blessing, not a duty. Whatever you provide is received with gratitude, not entitlement. Privacy creates purity in giving. It protects the heart of both the giver and the receiver. So you choose to keep your finances discreet, not as secrecy, but as spiritual maturity. You protect your peace, safeguard your relationships, and guard your dignity. Because at this stage of life, wisdom tells you that money is temporary, but harmony is priceless. With age comes a deeper understanding of how fragile the human heart truly is. Emotional wounds, those hidden scars formed from disappointments, betrayals, losses, and broken seasons, shape a person in ways that words often cannot express. By the time someone reaches 75, they have lived through storms that no one else will ever fully understand. And while these wounds may have healed, sharing them openly can sometimes cause more harm than good. Not because the past is shameful, but because not every chapter of your story should be reopened, especially when your spirit has already moved forward. When you've lived a long life, you learn that some pain becomes sacred. It becomes part of your private conversations with God, part of the quiet strength you built in the dark, part of the resilience you carry today. Reopening old emotional wounds can invite confusion, judgment, pity, or even conflict, none of which serve you or your peace in your later years. Younger people might ask questions you don't want to answer or try to interpret situations they never lived through. They may assign blame where there is none, or hold grudges against people you long ago forgave. What you have already released could become someone else's fresh anger. That is why wisdom teaches you that certain wounds are better left in the past. People often assume that talking about your old pain will somehow free you, but they don't realize you already did the work years ago. You healed slowly, quietly, prayerfully. You cried in silence when no one saw. You rebuilt yourself when no one applauded. You forgave those who hurt you when no one asked you to. Sharing those wounds now does not add healing. It only reopens memories that God has already covered with His grace. There is no need to explain the nights when you felt alone, the seasons when you felt betrayed, or the battles you fought to restore your sense of worth. You survived those moments, and survival is testimony enough. When you talk about old wounds, people tend to respond based on their emotions rather than your journey. Some may feel pity when what you want is respect. Some may offer advice for a pain that has already been resolved. Others may react with anger or judgment, creating new tension in relationships that are currently peaceful. That unnecessary disruption can weigh on your spirit, especially at an age when your priority is tranquility. Wisdom means protecting your emotional well-being, not exposing it. There is also a deeper truth. Some wounds were not meant to be shared because they involve people you still love. Revealing old hurts about a spouse, a child, a sibling, or a friend may plant seeds of bitterness in the hearts of others. They may begin to look at someone differently, even though you have already forgiven and moved forward. Keeping silent in these matters is not avoidance. It is love. It is guarding the relationships that matter most from unnecessary strain. It is honoring the peace you worked so hard to build. Additionally, people today may not understand what life was like when you experienced those wounds. They don't understand the culture, the pressures, the limitations, or the impossible decisions you had to make. They judge your past with the lens of their present. Explaining your pain to someone who cannot comprehend it only deepens the disconnect. Silence, in this case, is wisdom, not weakness. And finally, some emotional wounds belong only to you because they are part of what shaped your spiritual journey. They are the places where God met you in your deepest need. They are the seasons where your faith grew when everything around you was falling apart. They are the moments where you discovered strength you didn't know you had. These experiences are not meant for public conversation. They are meant for quiet reflection. By 75, you have learned that peace is precious. Protecting your emotional well-being means choosing what to share and what to keep sacred. Not every wound needs to be discussed. Not every memory needs to be revisited. You have earned the right to let your healed places remain healed. Your private battles remain private, and your heart rests undisturbed. There comes a point in life, especially after reaching 75, when you understand that many of the burdens you carried throughout your journey were never meant to be announced, celebrated, or even acknowledged by anyone around you. Some of the greatest sacrifices you made were done in silence, without applause, without recognition, and often without anyone knowing how much strength it took. But that silence was not weakness. That silence was discipline, humility, and wisdom. As you grow older, you realize that keeping those sacrifices private was not only the right thing to do, but also the most peaceful choice you could have made throughout your life. There were moments when you gave up something precious, so someone you loved could move forward. You may have denied yourself opportunities, delayed personal dreams, or absorbed pain that could have easily been passed to someone else. You did these things not because you had to, but because your heart would not allow you to do otherwise. Yet, sharing these sacrifices now might not produce gratitude. It might create guilt. It might reshape how your family views themselves or how they view you. And that shift is unnecessary, especially when your intention was never to be celebrated. It was simply to love. Silent battles also shape who you become. These are the struggles you face behind closed doors, the feelings you wrestled with in the quiet hours of the night, the moments you questioned your strength, the seasons you fought through emotional storms without letting anyone see the tears. You endured disappointments, health scares, financial pressure, and personal fears that no one witnessed. Yet if you were to reveal every detail now, it could burden your family with worry, regret, or sadness. They might wish they had known earlier, wish they could have helped, or blame themselves for not recognizing your pain. But you did not keep those battles private to shut them out. You kept them private to protect them. You also understand that many things you faced along the way were part of your spiritual growth. God often develops strength in the hidden places. Some victories are meant just for you because they shaped your faith, built your endurance, and taught you to rely on Him rather than on human support. Sharing every private battle now might diminish the intimacy of those sacred moments. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life were between you and God alone, and trying to explain them may reduce something divine into something ordinary. There are also sacrifices you made that others may misunderstand if you speak about them now. They may interpret your silence as distance or your strength as ease, not knowing the weight you carried. Speaking about these sacrifices could unintentionally change the way they see themselves or how they see you. It may create unnecessary tension or raise questions that do not need to be answered at this stage of life. Peace sometimes requires restraint. Harmony sometimes requires silence. And the maturity you now possess helps you choose both. At your age, you have also learned that people often don't see the battles someone fought until they are told. But revealing those battles later in life can overwhelm those who were never prepared to hear them. Some may respond with sadness, others with guilt, others with confusion. You do not need to disrupt their view of the past to validate your strength. You have already validated it by surviving. Your survival is your testimony, not your explanations. And then there is the matter of dignity, your own dignity. Keeping your past struggles private allows you to hold on to the dignity that comes from endurance. You face things silently because you trusted that you were strong enough. You overcame challenges not to earn praise, but because you refused to quit. Sharing those battles now might invite unwanted sympathy or cause people to treat you as fragile when you are anything but. You want to live your remaining years not as someone who suffered quietly, but as someone who overcame quietly. When you look back at your life, you recognize that your silent sacrifices created stability for people you love. Your private battles became the unseen foundation for the blessings your family enjoys today. But they do not need to know every detail. Your heart is peaceful because God saw it all. He witnessed every tear, every choice, every burden, every moment of strength. And at this stage in your life, letting Him be the only one who knows is enough. Reaching the age of 75 and beyond brings a clarity that younger seasons could never provide. Over the years, you learn that life is not about keeping everyone satisfied. It is about living with peace, purpose, and alignment with the values you have developed through decades of experience. Your final personal choices, whether about your health, your home, your relationships, your legacy, or your spiritual priorities, do not need the approval of those around you. You have earned the right to choose what brings you comfort, dignity, and fulfillment without feeling the pressure to justify yourself to anyone. At this stage in life, wisdom guides you more than opinions, and peace matters more than explanation. You spent many years making decisions for others, raising children, supporting a spouse, caring for parents, meeting the needs of a family, carrying responsibilities that required sacrifice and compromise. But now, this chapter of your life belongs to you. Your choices no longer need to revolve around pleasing everyone else. If you want simplicity, you're entitled to it. If you want rest, you've earned it. If you desire certain boundaries, you have the right to set them. You no longer owe explanations for how you choose to live your remaining years. Your decisions are not selfish. They are the fruit of maturity and the reward for all the years you spent putting others first. Sometimes family members, even with good intentions, may try to influence your choices, where you live, how you spend your time, what you invest in, whom you interact with, or how you plan your financial affairs. But they see things from their perspective, not yours. They may fear losing you or worry about your comfort or think they know what's best, yet they forget that you are not fragile. You are seasoned, tested, and strengthened by decades of life. You understand your needs better than anyone else. You know what brings you peace, what drains your spirit, what adds to your joy, and what complicates your life unnecessarily. Sharing every personal choice can invite pressure, debate, or unwanted persuasion, turning a simple decision into an emotional burden. Keeping certain choices private protects your autonomy and keeps your heart calm. This stage of life is also about stewardship. You are responsible for the time you have left, and you want to use it wisely. There may be things you want to do: travel to certain places, revisit childhood memories, reestablish old connections, spend more time alone, engage more deeply with your faith, or give in ways that reflect your heart. These desires do not require approval. They are reflections of the inner peace and purpose that God has cultivated in you. When you reveal these intentions too broadly, others may misunderstand your motives or attempt to reshape your plans according to their expectations. Silence allows you to honor your own spirit without unnecessary interference. Even in matters of health or end-of-life decisions, you have the right to choose what aligns with your beliefs and values. You may desire simplicity rather than prolonging suffering, dignity rather than confusion, or spiritual readiness rather than medical resistance. Sharing these choices with too many people can spark arguments, guilt-driven conversations, or emotional reactions that divert the focus away from what truly matters: your peace, your faith, and your comfort. Keeping some of these decisions private until the appropriate time allows you to remain in control of your life's final chapter without conflict. Your legacy, too, is something you have the right to shape without needing everyone else's approval. Whether you choose to bless certain people, support certain causes, or arrange your affairs in a way that reflects your values, you do not owe anyone an explanation. You know what you've lived through, who stood by you, what mattered most, and where your heart leads you. Your choices should mirror your journey, not someone else's plans. At this age, you recognize that peace is not found in pleasing everyone. It is found in honoring the wisdom you gained from a lifetime of learning. You do not hide your decisions out of secrecy, but out of serenity. You choose silence not because you fear conflict, but because you refuse to let conflict steal the calm you've earned. You protect your final years by guarding your choices, holding on to your dignity, and living in alignment with what feels right to your soul. You've spent a lifetime being responsible for others. Now you are responsible for your peace. Thank you.